Hester. I'm very new the vicar here at St. Peter. I've been here since the beginning of the summer. I moved down from West Hampstead, just 5 miles, but it felt like moving 500 miles in London. So you're very warmly welcome here today. And St. Peter's has stood here as a beacon of God's light and love in its prominent position at the top of Eaton Square since 1827. After 2 catastrophic fires in 1837 and 1987, it has become the beautiful light space that it is tonight. So it's wonderful to welcome you. I think you've been coming for many years here, and I'm looking forward to hearing the music. We've already heard some wonderful music. I'm looking forward to everything we should hear tonight. So you're very welcome.
So welcome to the Kids for Kids Candlelit Christmas Concert 2022. Isn't it amazing how many years that Kids for Kids has been going and we're having these fantastic Christmas concerts? And isn't it lovely to be here and to get into the Christmas spirit? Our volunteers and the church have done a great job at decorating the church, and wasn't that a fantastic start with trumpets? Thank you, Roy, and the Thames Fanfare Brass. And for me, it's particularly special because I just flew back from Albania last night. And so it's really super to start to think about Christmas and the coming days. Now, I'd really like to welcome our wonderful celebrity readers and our supporters. First, Timothy West. Timothy, welcome. It's so good of you to come again. And particularly to do so when we just heard that your wife Prunella, the lovely Prunella Scales, is feeling poorly. So please take her from us some special Christmas cheer. Now, also with us this evening is Karen Jankel, daughter of Michael Bond, author of Paddington, and Olga de Polga. Now, I'll say a little bit more about Karen and Paddington later on. And may I also welcome Liz Sutton, our wonderful trustee, founder of our longest-running sponsors and fans, like us, of Goats, the incredible Delamere Dairy. Now, our special thanks also go to Queensgate School, and particularly Amy Wallace, new principal of Queensgate, who has already become an instant supporter of Kids for Kids. Well, actually, who couldn't? But, as you'll see in a special way from your very thoughtful and heartfelt message in the programme. And as you have seen, and indeed heard already, you've kindly ensured that we continue to have singing with us the wonderful children in choir of Queensgate. And Amy will be reading for us in a short while too. But before we hear from her, and before we light the candle of hope, may I also welcome Rosalind Kamarick, who is also with us tonight, who's just finished as principal as Amy's predecessor, but who continues to support us. Thank you, Rosalind, and thank you to all the other Queensgate school supporters who are with us tonight, and also those who've supported us over so many years. Now, we also have our patron, Dame Rosalind Marsden here, who's been a long-standing engager on Sudan, many years. Indeed, I used to work together with Ros as a diplomat, well, as a baby diplomat, I should say. So I think, Ros, I probably learnt at your feet, but thank you for your steadfast support for Kids as well, and continuing to try and broker peace in one of the hardest places in the world. Now, this year, we're very privileged to have again with us the wonderful Natalie Rushdie. So, Natalie, thank you so much for coming as our special guest this year in order to really delight us with your beautiful voice. Some of you will have heard Natalie previously when she sang for us before. Now, I also have a warm message for you, but I'm afraid it's a remote one. So as in these days, of course, we're now relieved not to have the pandemic, but sadly, Valerie Singleton, who was planning to join with us, Valerie, of course, of Blue Peter fame, was really looking forward to joining and being here, but unfortunately, you won't believe it, she's lost her voice. So, of course, we need to send Valerie our best regards for a swift recovery. But she was particularly looking forward to this, she was saying, because, of course, with Karen, she knew Michael Bond, your father, from when he worked at the BBC, I believe. Not just on Blue Peter, but when he was cameraman as well. Now, may I send on all of your behalf our best wishes to Valerie for a swift recovery, and if we're lucky, she will be with us for the online concert, which you may see is taking place on the 15th of December. Now, we're the lucky ones, because actually, if you come to the online concert as well, that's only for a special rate of £5, but do encourage others to join us too on the 15th of December. And now, let's continue with the lovely festivities. Thank you.
So now we're going to have the candle of hope lit. Would you like to come and
Well, thank you, Patricia, for the invitation to offer a reading this evening. And as I say in the foreword, when that invitation came, I knew exactly what I would choose, having had such a warm discussion with Patricia about the work of Kids for Kids. The reading I have chosen is one by Howard Thurman, American theologian, philosopher, and civil rights activist, and it's entitled The Work of Christmas. I've usually heard this used at Epiphany, but I hope when you hear it you will understand why I've chosen to bring it forward a few weeks, and I hope you will indulge me. So, the work of Christmas. When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flock, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among borders, to make music in the heart.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose, Yuletide carols being sung by a choir, and folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows a turkey and some mistletoe will help to make the season bright. Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow will find it hard to sleep tonight. They know that Santa's on his way. He's loaded lots of toys and goodies on his sleigh, and every mother's child is gonna spy to see if reindeer really know how to fly. And so I'm offering up this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas to you. And so I'm offering up this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. From now on, our troubles will be out have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. From now on, our troubles will be miles away. Here we are, as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who were dear to us, gather near to us once more. Through the years we all will be together, if the fates allow. Hang a shining orb on the highest bough, and have yourself a merry little Christmas now.
December sunshine, bright and brittle, shone through the classroom window and lit up the vicar. His sparse, sandy hair shone like gold, his small black eyes sparkled, and his cheeks shone as if they'd been scrubbed. "This is a very special time of year, children," he said jovially, addressing the infants who stared at him with open mouths. "Can anyone tell me what it is?" "Christmas," volunteered a small, wiry boy with a feathery fringe, who began waving his hand in the air like a daffodil in a strong wind. "It's Christmas." "It is indeed," agreed the vicar, smiling beneficially. "It's Christmas and a very, very special time of year." "I'm getting a bike," the boy told him. "I'm getting a doll that can wet her nappies and talk," added a large girl with a round moon face and hair in untidy brooches. This was the signal for all the children to shout out what presents they were hoping to receive from Father Christmas. "I'm getting a remote-controlled car." "I'm getting a train set." "Children, children," exclaimed the vicar, raising a hand like a crossing patrol warden stopping cars. "Christmas is not just about presents, you know. It's really a celebration of a birthday. It's about the birth of a very special baby." "I know what it were called," said this very small, wiry boy. The vicar interlaced his long fingers just beneath his chin in an attitude of a child praying, and smiled. "I'm very glad to hear it," he said in that solicitous and kindly tone often possessed by men of the cloth. "Yeah, it were called Wayne," the child told him. "Yeah."
I have some special announcements to make about how you can help. Now first, some of you will see the little envelopes in front of you on the pews. Those are gift aid envelopes. So anything you donate, if you put your name and address on there, actually means, and I probably shouldn't say this in my ambassadorial role, but it means that you'll get more from the government for Kids. But that is rather good, and my mother at least likes taking money from the government. I try not to spend the government's money because, of course, it's taxpayers' money. So it's a little bit of a challenge tonight, but at least we have a good opportunity for you to get more money and get it to go further. Now, of course, at the back, you may have seen on the way in, we have the sales table. Lovely, gorgeous, cuddly goats and other super Christmas presents, and, of course, gift certificates. They are literally the best gifts ever because, of course, they don't take up any space, but they make such a difference to people in Darfur. Now, there are also some freebies, so if you like car stickers or badges, go for those. But, of course, you might like to do a donation as well, but see what you fancy. Now, of course, many organisations talk about sustainability, but one of the best things about Kids for Kids, and what I've really learned through how we've shaped Kids for Kids over the years, and also learned from the Darfurians themselves, is that everything we do is designed by the communities, by us, to be long-lasting and long-term. So the best way you can help is not just to make a donation this evening, but to make your support long-term too. That really helps us plan for the future. And in the programme, you have details of how to become a regular supporter or children's champions. And as a children's champion, you do get a gold goat as well. Now, we also have a very important issue on which we need your help, please. We urgently need both a personal assistant and a deputy for my mother to help her run the charity here in the UK. We need someone who's going to be dynamic and driven to make a difference, but challenging because, of course, we don't want them to be too grand either. So, of course, everyone has to do everything, from folding leaflets to meeting our wonderful patrons and celebrities, Timothy, Joanna Lumley, Miriam Margulies, and so on. And, of course, organising these fantastic events. Our special summer event is, of course, the Ambassadors' Ball. That's happening on the 17th of June, so look out for the other events as well. But if you know of somebody who should come and come and work with us, that would be great. But if somebody would like to come and volunteer, that would also be wonderful. But now we have a special treat for a special Christmas story. But look who I have here. Slightly bedraggled and probably well-worn Paddington Bear. And you may see that his boots are rather dirty and a bit worn too. And you won't believe who wore these boots. But actually, first me and my brother Douglas, and then more recently, my two little nephews, Torin and Oscar, and our little 2-year-old niece, Erin, all my mother's 3 grandchildren, who have literally just arrived. I just saw them coming in at the back. Hey, guys, I'm going to wave. Hello. I may drop Paddington, but I think you need to come up and get Paddington at the end, Oscar. But basically, they've just come up from Devon to come for a bit of a Christmas celebration, but also hopefully to enjoy a bit more about Paddington. Now, there may be some other Paddingtons around the church too, so if you can spot them, have a look. And also on the pews, and if you can find one, you better get there quick, you may find, like Paddington, that there's a pot of marmalade that you could put under your hat in case of emergencies. Now, of course, this evening you're also invited at the end of the concert to join us at the back for mulled wine and mince pies. That's behind the high altar, so do stay on if you can. It's a lovely way to get to know each other and to share a little bit of Christmas spirit, both in terms of the food and wine and the joy it brings. But what better way to hear our next Christmas story than to hear it from Paddington Bear, read by one of our very first children's champions, Karen. And before they read, I've asked both Karen and our other readers to say briefly why they decided to support Kids for Kids. So Karen, thank you.
Thank you, Alistair. So, why do I support Kids for Kids? Well, about 10 years ago, a friend of ours who is actually sitting with us tonight had a special birthday. And instead of birthday presents, she asked us all to give her goats. And I must admit, at the time, I thought it was rather a strange request until I discovered where these goats were going, that they were going to Kids for Kids. And we found out more about the charity, and the more we found out, the more wonderful we thought it was. And from that moment on, we became firm supporters. And as you can see from my gold goat, I'm now a children's champion. And so, moving on from goats to bears, I'm now going to read you a Paddington Christmas story. One day, shortly before Christmas, Paddington overheard Mrs. Bird singing. As he listened to the words, he nearly fell off his chair with surprise. It seemed her true love had sent her a present of a partridge in a pear tree. As it happened, Paddington was having trouble deciding what to buy everyone for Christmas, and he wished he'd thought of it himself. He hurried out into the garden, but to his disappointment, he couldn't see a pear tree anywhere, let alone one with a partridge in it. He gazed hopefully at Mr. Brown's apple tree, but apart from a few sparrows, the branches were bare. No sooner was he back indoors than he heard Mrs. Brown singing that her true love had sent her 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, and 2 turtle doves, not to mention another partridge in a pear tree. Paddington could hardly believe his ears, and he hurried back outside as fast as he could. But once again he was too late. Even the sparrows had flown away, and all that was left was one fat pigeon sitting on the lawn. All the same, there was clearly something going on. Sure enough, moments later, it was Judy's turn to break into song. This time, along with all the birds and the pear tree, she had been given 5 gold rings. Paddington decided that the Browns must have a very rich friend indeed if he could afford so many presents. It made his own list look very small. He couldn't afford much more than a set of 5 plastic rings, let alone 5 gold ones. Over the next few days, the mystery deepened. 7 swans a-swimming arrived and disappeared again before Paddington had a chance to see them. 8 maids a-milking came and went, although Paddington did find a note on the doorstep asking for 2 extra pints, please. When he heard Mrs. Bird singing about 9 ladies dancing, he thought perhaps she'd ordered extra milk in case they got thirsty. Finally, when he heard Jonathan singing that he'd been sent 10 lords a-leaping, Paddington decided it was time to consult his friend, Mr. Gruber. Mrs. Bird has fallen in love with a very rich man who has lots of servants and keeps birds, explained Paddington. He sent all sorts of Christmas presents, but as fast as they arrive, they disappear. I think, said Mr. Gruber, that if you were to go back home, you might find he sent 11 pipers piping as well. You see, explained Mr. Gruber, they haven't really been getting presents. They've all been singing a Christmas song. But you've given me an idea for your present to them. As Mr. Gruber led the way along Portobello Road, he explained what he had in mind. I think with the help of all of your friends in the market, we shall be able to give the family something to remember. On Christmas morning, an unusual procession began making its way from the market towards 32 Windsor Gardens. Everyone was carrying something to represent the 12 days of Christmas. Paddington came last, struggling under the weight of a shrub for the garden, decorated with pear-shaped baubles and a papier-mâché partridge. If you ask me, said Mrs. Bird as she invited everyone in for hot mince pies, that's the nicest start to a Christmas day anyone could wish for. But then, she added, with a bear like Paddington about the house, life is always full of lovely surprises.
This is called Christmas Memory by Truman Capote. So we do what we've always done. Sit for days at the kitchen table with scissors and crayons, stacks of colored paper. I make sketches and my friend cuts them out. Lots of cats, fish too, because fish are easy to draw. Some apples, some watermelons, a few winged angels devised from saved up sheets of Hershey bar tinfoil. And we use safety pins to attach these creatures to the tree. As a final touch, we sprinkle the branches with shredded cotton picked in August for this purpose. My friend, surveying the effect, clasps her hands together and says, "Now, honest, doesn't it look good enough to eat?" And Queenie tried to eat an angel. After weaving and ribboning holly wreaths for all the front windows, our next project is the fashioning of family gifts. The tie-dye scarves for the ladies, for the men, a home-brewed lemon and licorice and aspiring syrup to be taken at the first symptoms of a cold and after hunting. Well, when it comes to making such each other's gift, my friend and I like to work secretly. I would like to buy her a pearl-handled knife, a radio, a whole pound of chocolate-covered cherries. We tasted some of these once, and she always swears I could live on them. Lord, yes, I really could, and that is not taking his name in vain. Instead, I'm building her a kite. She'd like to give me a bicycle. She said so several million occasions. If only I could, buddy. It's bad enough in life to do without something that you want, but confound it, what gets my goat is not being able to give somebody something that you want them to have. Yeah.
We cannot go to Darfur now. 13 months ago, the military, who had supported Omar Bashir for 30 years, seized power. Sudan is a military state again. This week, the British ambassador visited one of our villages in Darfur and saw for himself what our help does for a community, despite renewed violence. Majube asked us to adopt them in 2007, but it's not the same elsewhere in Darfur. You will not have seen reports about Darfur in the press for a very long time. No one goes there. Darfur is isolated, landlocked in the center of Africa, yet it's the size of France. It takes as long to get there from Khartoum, the capital, as it does to travel from London to Rome. There's just one road, so you fly. And national security monitors the movements of every single person. Earlier this year, the World Health Organization warned that a third of the population across the whole of Sudan would face starvation. It's worse even than in Somalia. The military have done little for the people. In Darfur, there were floods in August. There was no spraying of standing water, and mosquitoes have swarmed. In the hospital, there are 4 children in every bed suffering from malaria. It's still the biggest killer in Africa. Half of those children will die because they're too malnourished to fight the disease. Mosquitoes in Africa also carry dengue fever, chikungunya, and yellow fever, all deadly. Thankfully, we provided 3,000 mosquito nets at the start of the rainy season, so those families at least have some protection. But it's not enough. No assistance goes to the distant villages. No roads lead to them. You bounce across tracks across the sand. There are no houses, just huts made of straw, and if you're lucky, a straw fence. The wind blows through the walls, carrying sand. No water, no electricity, no toys. There are no beds for children, no blankets. Hard-packed sand is what the children sleep on. That's how you would sleep if you had been born in Darfur. They cook on open fires, so the endless search for firewood is added to the endless walk for water. Trees are disappearing from Darfur as the Sahara advances. There's no health care in villages. Childbirth is a dangerous time. Let me tell you how one little child inspired Kids for Kids. My first visit to Sudan was to celebrate Alistair's birthday. Sudan was his first overseas posting on joining the Foreign Office. He's never chosen easy posts. We went to Darfur with no idea how our lives would be changed. We were simple travellers, enjoying seeing the country. It was finding a small 9-year-old walking for water that was the inspiration for Kids for Kids. It was a shocking sight to see a child struggling alone across the endless scrub desert under the scorching sun. It took him 7 hours to reach the hand pump. Yet under Darfur, there's the biggest aquifer in Africa. But no one was digging hand pumps. That was in 2001. 21 years later, there is still no other organisation digging hand pumps in the villages. What happened after I met that little boy walking for water? Well, we went to find his mother. She was camping in a dried riverbed with her children because she had to protect their only possessions, 3 little goats. When we arrived in our big 4x4, she gave us their evening meal, 1 bowl of goat's milk. I realised how precious that was. I came home and started telling my friends about this little family. In 6 months, I raised £54,000 and arranged for a hand pump in the village. And I devised what is now our key project, our goat loan. We adopt new villages every year and lend the poorest families 5 goats. It turns their lives around. The children have milk, and this year especially, it's their only source of protein. Many children are starving. As the little flock of goats grows, the mother has her own income for the first time. She can make decisions for her own families. Ladies, can you imagine if it was us? After 2 years, she passes on 5 healthy kids to another of the poorest families in the village. And every 2 years, more children have milk to drink as the goat loan spreads around the whole community. But we don't stop there. We provide a whole package of things that in Darfur lifts them out of poverty. We give a donkey plough, blankets and mosquito nets for the children, farm tools, and we train the community so that each village runs the project without us. We train 2 midwives, 2 first aid workers and 2 paravets. You cannot provide animals without making sure they too are looked after. And we plant trees around the village and outside people's huts. When a village has shown it's running the projects well, we provide more help. Majub A now has a health unit, a veterinary centre, and the ambition of every mother, a kindergarten. And we make sure there's a PTA, yes, just like us, to run it. Every year, more and more villages ask us to adopt them. There are now 110 Kids for Kids villages. People are desperate for our help. Conditions in Darfur are the worst I've ever known. Drought is more frequent. Darfur is at the very forefront of global warming, causing failure of the crops, which are their only means of survival. When they do plant their seeds, torrential rain can wash away the seedlings. Starvation is a frightening reality. No one can afford a goat without help. But there's none. We adopt as many villages as we can each year, yet donations to Kids for Kids since the start of COVID are diminishing alarmingly. We desperately need more income we can rely on if we're to help more children now, today. I appeal to you, as Alistair said, please become a regular giver. If you can, could you become a children's champion? You choose your projects and commit to 3 years. That enables me to plan and not to let down the poorest people in the world. The community forests we're planting transform the desert. The British ambassador sent me pictures this week of the trees at Majub A. They asked for Acacia Senegal, so that they have an income from gum arabic. And for me, something miraculous. When I was there the year before last, I was told that rabbits and foxes are returning where we've planted trees. Animals, again, in Darfur. It shows we can address climate change if we really want. You'll remember it was one little boy who inspired all this. Girls, you've sung beautifully tonight, but please support us during the year too, because in Darfur, the World Health Organization has already warned of worse to come. Please tell your friends in other schools now how children sleep on the sand and are dying because their mothers cannot afford a mosquito net. You might challenge yourselves and get sponsorship. Grandparents, I can promise, are very generous. Have you thought of a walk for water? Though I'm not suggesting you walk for 7 hours and back again. But that's what that little 9-year-old did every day. It's humbling to hear how the poorest families help each other. Can you imagine if everyone here donated a goat, how many children would no longer be hungry? It's just £50 for a goat. What price is that to save a child from starvation? You remember that bowl of goat's milk we were given by a mother who had virtually nothing? How much more do we have? I was not born in Darfur, but I could have been, and so could you. If you know anyone who would like a Christmas present, you could perhaps think of giving them a goat, a tree, a mosquito net, or maybe they'd like a donkey. We'll send certificates and provide whatever you choose. There are certificates at the back of church. Your gift to someone you love will help save a little one's life in Darfur. A child loved by a mother and father, just like you and me. Happy Christmas, everybody. Thank you.
carrying a candle from one little place of shelter to another, is an act of love. To move through the huge and hungry darkness, step by step, against the invisible wind that blows forever round the world. Carrying a candle is an act of foolhardy hope. Surely it will be blown out. The wind is contemptuous. The darkness cannot comprehend it. How much light can this tiny flame shed on all the great issues of the day? Look how the human hand that cradles it has become translucent, fragile and beautiful, foolish and loving, step by step. The wind is stronger than this hand, and the darkness infinite around this tiny here and now flame that wavers but keeps burning, carried with such care through an uncaring world from one little place of shelter to another. An act of love. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never put it out.
blessing of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, come down upon you and all those you love, this night and forever. Amen.
Thank you so much. And may I ask you now, please, to blow out your candles. Carefully. Now another light comes up. Wasn't that gorgeous? Now, I'd like to ask you to help me to give a special thanks, please, to all our musicians, and in particular, conductor Ian, organist Nicholas up behind us, and our amazing pianist, Mitra. Thank you all. Now, some of you will know that actually Mitra has played with us here every year that we've had concerts at St. Peter's. And that sort of friendship, Mitra, is really, for Patricia, for all of us here, that's one of the best kinds of Christmas presents. Thank you, Mitra, but also thank you for bringing your page turner and reindeer with you this evening. Now, of course, all of their work, and that of all the musicians and singers to prepare for tonight and for the concert each year, is really so much appreciated, as is how you give us the chance to hear the choir and their superb musicality, which gets better each year. Thank you, girls. Now, I have a very important message, and that's that thanks to some very generous supporters, we all have a major opportunity, and that's our Kids for Kids Christmas Doubling campaign. Now, any donations made here tonight or any time up to the 27th of December will be doubled. And that's thanks to Dame Joanna Lumley, our amazing patron, and two other incredible but modest supporters. One of them's here with us tonight, but the amount that you donate will be doubled. And if we can raise donations all the way up to £27,500, that whole sum will be doubled, and that will generate a huge £55,000. Think I've got my sums right. So if it gets to Boxing Day, and you or your family or friends happen to find a few £1,000s stuffed behind the sofa where Granny has left them when you're clearing away the Christmas wrapping paper, then you know what to do. And you or your friends still have time on Boxing Day to contribute to the Kids for Kids Christmas Doubling campaign. And think about what Patricia told us about what that really means, how hundreds of children will be saved from starvation. And that means that they won't only get water and milk, but they can really start to help themselves without others' help. Now, if each of us present tonight donated just one extra goat, we would be well on our way. And of course, you've got the chance to do that. You can donate in the baskets that will come round shortly, or the ones at the back. You can donate in the gift aid envelopes I showed you earlier. And if you want to make card donations, please go to the back of the church and you'll find the wonderful Charlotte, who did more than anyone to organise tonight and pull together our wonderful programme. And of course, don't forget that you can also buy, remember, gift certificates, not just to give someone here a wonderful present, but also the most amazing lifeline to a child in Darfur. And it really is the perfect present for Christmas. Now, of course, after we've heard the last fanfare and after we've enjoyed the mulled wine and mince pies, please do, all of you, think and act to spread the word. But most importantly, please have a very happy Christmas. Thank you.